You trusted them, and then they weaponized it. In a recent survey, 64% of people said betrayal by someone close to them caused more long-term emotional distress than the original event they were upset about. Neuroscience shows betrayal activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Your brain doesn't distinguish emotional from physical wounds because your brain doesn't think. It just logs, I'm injured. And betrayal, that gets encoded deeply across all levels of the mind-brain-body network. But what happens when your mind can't stop rerunning the moment? When the trust you gave becomes a wound that you carry. In this week's episode, we'll explore what betrayal does to your brain and mind, how to start separating yourself from the injury, and what recovery actually requires. If you've ever felt blindsided by someone you trusted, if today's topic hits close to home, then this conversation isn't just for you. It's for every person who's still carrying silent grief from a betrayal they didn't see coming. And the chances are you know someone else who's carrying that too. So take a moment right now to like, follow, or subscribe to this podcast. Share it with a friend or family member who needs to feel seen. Your one click can be someone else's first step towards healing. Now let's continue. Welcome to the Dr. Leaf Show. I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, a clinical and research neuroscientist, and on this podcast, we explore how to take back control of your mental health using science, wisdom, and simple daily strategies. This week, we're diving into something so many of us have experienced, but often don't talk about: betrayal, and what it really does to your brain, your body, and your identity. Betrayal doesn't always leave bruises. It leaves wired-in patterns in your psychoneurobiology, quiet ones that show up when trust feels risky and your guard won't come down. You think it's behind you until a moment triggers you and reminds you, your mind kept the memory even when you try to move on. Not the drama, not the explosion, but the residue, the body memory. The little moments where you suddenly don't feel safe in places or with people who used to be comforting to you. Let's be honest. Betrayal's got so many layers. There's the event, then there's the silence afterwards. Then there's the stories you start telling yourself about what happened. Things like, I should have seen it coming. Maybe I expected too much. Was it really betrayal or am I just sensitive? This is how the wound spreads like a virus. Not because the injury worsens, but because the meaning of it stays unresolved and then gets chaotic. The mind is not the brain. Your mind is a non-physical force, an energetic system of thought, feeling, and choice. And it's you, the non-conscious part of the mind, that are often described as a vast forest of thought trees with memories on the branches and roots, processes billions of bits of data every second. It stores every experience, every betrayal, every conclusion you draw from it, every good, the bad, the ugly. And unless these toxic thought trees are identified, deconstructed, reconstructed, and reconceptualized, which we do consciously, by the way, using the conscious part of our minds, they'll continue to grow, quietly, persistently, driving us in the wrong direction. So no, you're not weak for still feeling the betrayal. You're not overly emotional for being impacted. Your mind is doing what it is basically designed to do: protect you by remembering pain so that you can reconstruct it before it disrupts you. The betrayal may not be active anymore, but the meaning you made from it, that's still in the system. And you can't just will it away or positively affirm it away. You have to work with it. Because pain that isn't transformed gets transferred, usually onto the next relationship or the next version of yourself who dares to hope. So let's start where you are, not with a clean slate, but with the messy half-healed page. That's where your power lives. Someone once told me their dad stopped speaking to them after one argument. Not a screaming match, just a moment where they pushed back for the first time, and he cut them off. No calls, no birthdays, just absence. Years later, they weren't angry, they were wired to brace for disconnection anytime they expressed a need. That's how betrayal works. It installs a reflex in the psychoneurobiological system as a coping mechanism that works in the moment, but not in the long term. Why does betrayal hurt so much more than other forms of pain? Because it doesn't just affect how you feel, it shakes how you function as a whole human. And research shows that betrayal activates the same regions in the brain that process physical pain, so you feel it. This is called the anterior insular and dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. They don't distinguish between physical and emotional pain. The brain processes the pain like a physical injury. But it's your mind that interprets it, builds it into energy clouds in the mind, and then stores it in the brain and decides what to do next. Here's the loop that gets installed when you don't deal with it. The conscious mind says, this was unsafe. The conscious mind also says, store it and stay alert. The conscious mind then wires that into the brain, and the body says, tense up, don't let it happen again. And unless you interrupt that loop and access the wisdom of your intuitive, non-conscious mind, it keeps running. That's why you might find yourself tired but unsure why. Snapping over small things, struggling to relax with people. The betrayal becomes background noise until you name it. As soon as you name it, you get control. It brings it into a state that you can change it, and it gives your system a chance to just exhale. You've probably been told to move on, let it go, give it time, but time doesn't integrate pain. The non-conscious mind doesn't track minutes, it tracks meaning. That's why you might say, I'm fine, but you actually feel numb. You may stay silent when something actually really hurts you, or you may over-explain to people who haven't earned your story. Healing isn't just about stopping the tears, it's about creating a space in the system by tapping into your intuitive non-conscious part of your mind to find the answers. Everything you need is inside of you. When you suppress betrayal or rush forgiveness, you're not healing, you're building workarounds, navigating around the pain instead of through it. Reconceptualization gives you another route. Gather awareness, reflect honestly, write to externalize, recheck your beliefs, reach for a new thought daily, imperfectly but intentionally. You weren't designed to forget what hurt you. You were designed to learn from it, integrate it, and grow beyond it. So if you've been stuck, stop performing healing. Let's begin healing. Betrayal isn't just a crack in the relationship, it's a crack in your internal psychoneurobiological map, your mind-brain-body map. You had a model of trust, a model of closeness, a model of your role in someone's life. Betrayal breaks those models. So your system scrambles and becomes chaotic. And you find yourself saying, who can I trust? Am I too much? Should I just shut down more? That's not overreacting. That's an attempt at recalibrating. But if you don't guide that process, if you don't guide that reconceptualize, recalibration, big words, your mind will default to protection and connection will suffer. There's a lot of grief in realizing that you don't trust like you used to. But that grief is honest, and honesty is the starting point for rebuilding. You're not just grieving the betrayal, you're grieving the version of yourself that used to trust freely. And that kind of grief, that's sacred ground. That's where the new story begins. So, let's reframe the question. Not, why did they do this to me? But rather, what story did I start telling myself after it happened? That's where the healing lives. Chapter 5. A reset ritual for reclaiming safety. Let's bring it down simplistically to breath. If betrayal still lingers, even subtly, here's a tool to help your system reset. It's called the 3-part Trust Audit and Interoceptive Naming. It's not about forced closure, it's about creating a new rhythm. So here it is. Step 1. Name the event. Say it plainly. For example, someone I trusted took credit for something we had built together. Just a fact. No spiral, no self-blame. Step 2. Name the pattern. What belief got installed? For example, I believe no one will protect me but me. Say it out loud. That gives your mind something to work with and gives you control. Step 3. Name the signal. What's your body doing when the wound is stirred? Tight throat, heavy chest, tense shoulders? Put your hand there and say, This is residue, not the rule. That one sentence separates sensation from story. And yes, science supports this. Interoceptive awareness reduces trauma reactivity and boosts emotional clarity. This is an active reach. Step 5 of my neurocycle system, structured redirection, a new instruction for the brain. You're not erasing the betrayal. You can't get rid of what's happened, but you're reconstructing it. You're updating the file. If you feel a wave hit out of nowhere, just pause. Press your feet flat. Name 3 things you can see, 1 thing you can feel, 1 sentence. This belongs to my past, but I'm safe right now. And the nervous system remembers. 1 breath, 1 thought, 1 new response. Again, not perfectly, but intentionally. You didn't trust easily anymore, but this time you paused before retreating. You caught yourself mid-pattern. You were invited to a group gathering, maybe a dinner, a family check-in, or a weekend trip with people you used to feel close to. Or maybe your child asked for help with something small and a part of you hesitated, remembering the last time the connection backfired. But last time you shared something personal, it was met with silence, or worse, used against you. You were invited to a group gathering, maybe a dinner, a family check-in, or a weekend trip with people you used to feel close to. Or maybe your child asked you to help with something small, and part of you hesitated, remembering the last time the connection backfired. But last time you shared something personal, it was met with silence, or worse, used against you. The sting left a mark. Still, you felt something shift this time. You showed up. You stayed a little longer. Not because it felt easy, but because part of you recognized the risk was different. And so were you. That moment, that's an example of neuroplasticity in action. You are directing it with your mind. You took control. When you override the reflex to retreat, you're teaching your brain a new response, because your brain just does what your mind tells it to do. You are releasing the wisdom from the non-conscious mind, which then helps your conscious mind see that the world isn't just pain. And that distinction creates new thought trees, a new map for navigating closest without collapsing into fear. This is how reconceptualization works in practice, not through sudden trust, but through slow recalibration. The wise mind, the non-conscious processor that runs beneath the noise, is always observing. It registers every effort you make. Every moment you catch a distorted belief and redirect your response is a win, deeply rewiring and rewarding. Rebuilding trust isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming the kind of person who can feel fear and still stay present. Because safety isn't a condition other people grant you. It's a structure you reinforce, one moment at a time. Betrayal doesn't leave when the person does. It lingers in the questions you start asking yourself. Do I share less? Do I expect less? Do I trust no one? Your brain is logging every injury because your mind is telling it to. But it also listens to new instructions coming from your mind. Each time you pause before reacting, that's a new neural pathway forming. Each time you reflect instead of ruminating, that's neuroplasticity in motion. Feeling stuck is part of it, but each choice you make is teaching your brain a safer way forward. This is resilience. But it's also rebuilding. You're recovering and also learning how to trust again in a new way. That work, it rewires your psychoneurobiology quietly, permanently, and it changes everything. Betrayal is especially painful because it doesn't come from enemies. It comes from people who we gave access to our inner world. But pain doesn't mean permanence, and proximity doesn't equal identity. According to psychoneurobiological and neuroscientific research, your brain replays what your mind hasn't resolved. But resolution is possible. And then your brain sings a new tune. Not through avoidance, but through integration. This is what I study. This is what I teach. Your non-conscious mind is always building thought trees. Betrayal doesn't have to be the one that keeps growing. You can prune it. You can redirect it. You can plant something else. You don't have to carry this alone. We're building clarity together. One episode, one thought, one breath at a time. You are healing. And I'm so honored to be part of that process with you. And to help you, I have a new book coming out on the 5th of August called Help in a Hurry. I'm going to help you in a hurry, filled with simple techniques that are scientific, clinically applied to help you manage those moments, create those gaps in your life. If you pre-order now, go to helpitatahurrybook.com. There's amazing bonuses that you can get as well. See you next time.